these players to be terrified of you?
Man, I don't know. I'll give him credit. Last year I was terrible. Like I was, Mighty Ducks, where they call the head coach Captain Blood there for a little bit when he's on a tirade. That was kind of me last year. I had my shoulder replaced, and I was just a nut job. So, I think that was last year. But in general, I don't feel like that's my personality. Like, I'm intense, don't get me wrong, but I like to have fun, run around, do all that type of stuff. But, I probably earned that title last year for sure. I got to own that one.
Feel like it's a little calmer now that you moved over to the offensive side of the ball?
Absolutely. It's a different game, and that's where I spent most of my career anyways. And it's just, it's different. Defense is so reactive. And offensively, I feel like you kind of have control of what the game's going to be, and it lets you be a little more calm with what you're doing. And I just made an emphasis this year, honestly, and my wife and I talked about this, and I talked to multiple people about it, just about having more fun. Like, this game is a hard game. These kids, this is a short window that they get in high school to enjoy this sport. And for a lot of them, this is going to be the end of their career, right? They won't play beyond it. So I think we have a responsibility to make it an enjoyable experience,
Well, you talking about your career, let's go that direction for a minute, because you moved here not too long ago, and you've been involved with a lot of different athletics. So if you wouldn't mind, just take a minute to help our listeners get to know you. Where'd you come from? What have you been involved with as far as athletically? You kind of alluded to playing in college. Just get us caught up on who you are, where you're from, and how you ended up here.
Yeah, no, originally I'm from Wisconsin, so I don't like to claim the place I came from before I came here. By the way, on Wisconsin, Big Ten over SEC all day long. Chase Roberts, if you're listening, that's for you. But, and then, I was in Vegas for a long time. I played small college football, and then went back to my alma mater in Vegas, I'm 40 now, so it was 17 years ago, and started coaching at Cimarron. And then from there, I went to Legacy High School, then back to my alma mater, and then where I spent, a good chunk of change was at Faith Lutheran. And that's where, I feel like I really started to hone my craft as a coach. And I was around some awesome dudes with great experience who took me under their wing, and they gave me an opportunity. And then, from there we came here. So Vegas was not the place we wanted to raise our children, so we got up and out of there. My wife's born and raised there, and that's what led us, to leave in Vegas. So, yeah, when I was at Faith, that's where, we took over a program that was sub 500. In our first year, we lose the first 2 games of the season, brand new staff. Everybody's fired up. Like, these guys don't know what they're doing. Then we go on a 12-game heater, and we win a state championship. And then from there, we built that program. We took it over. There were 70 kids. When I left, we had 170. And then we were playing the top 25 teams in the country, like a couple of them a year, and built a heck of a program. And that's where Coach Sanford went, too. So now he's down there, and he's running that thing. So
you guys just flipped spots?
Basically. So, no, that's legitimately what happened. So I took my last year in Vegas. I was in a bad place, so I just took a year off. I was like, I got to see if I even like football anymore. Do I just do this? Because I've always done it. And so I took a year off, and then the head coach at the time, my good buddy Vernon Fox, he decided after that year he was done. And then I heard Mike was coming, and I was like, well, I'd been up here to Heber to fish and do all that. I was like, well, if Mike's leaving to come here, there's got to be something up there. And so then I reached out to Coach Coburn and, all that, and we got the ball rolling, and then I ended up here. So,
a heck of a hire, by the way, Ty. Like, in one hiring pool, there was only one coordinator position that was open, and somehow we ended up with Coach Roberts, Coach Lindley, and Coach Knight all hired.
Which is incredible, because head coach in Las Vegas, right? Coach Lindley had been a head coach in Southern Utah, and Coach Roberts was doing some college coaching, right? As well. And so I mean, that's a
coach too at a high school level.
That's a pretty good job. To have all these coaches on the staff over there.
I want to give you an opportunity, Coach Knight, because you've coached some good ones, and so just kind of take some opportunity to kind of give a shout out to some of the guys that are actually at the NFL level that you had a chance to coach and kind of recruited into the game of football.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're pointing at Dalton Kincaid would be the one that comes to mind. But yeah, we had Dalton in Vegas. He actually transferred to Faith to be a basketball guy, and we had some football guys playing basketball. I said, that dude right there needs to be playing football. I was like, not to be the stereotypical guy, but I mean, he's a 6'3", 6'4" white dude playing power forward. Like, his future is not in the NBA. His future is going to be over here. And so I got to credit the kids we had really went hard in recruiting him, and we loved him up and brought him out. And I told him, we had a couple of guys like this. I said, you come play football. I promise you will play at the next level. Now, I would be an absolute liar if I said I knew he was going to be a first-round draft pick and do all the things that he did. But, I mean, fantastic kid. I mean, he was unbelievable. Like, one of those kids who, no matter what's happening, because there are games, you go play Bishop Gorman and you're just holding on for the ride, right? You're trying not to get drilled by 80. But positive attitude, fantastic worker, great kid, and just took to the game like a duck to water. I mean, he was awesome, And
so I'm curious if that creates, and by the way, for our listeners, you're listening to Coach Nate Knight, offensive coordinator for Wasatch Football team. Wasatch offense that's averaging 33.5 points per game this season. They've had a lot of success. But, Coach, do you get into, fantasy football stuff?
I don't. This is my fantasy football.
All right.
On Fridays, I'm out there, trying to...
Well, I was curious, and so I guess you don't. I was going to say, does that create bias and you draft a guy like Dalton onto your team?
I would,
you don't
for
even
sure.
have to worry about that over there.
With that being said, Coach, I want to give you an opportunity. You texted me last night and kind of were like, 8:30, can we go a little bit later, because you're up at all hours of night, and that's what coaches do. I want you to give an opportunity to let our listeners know, what goes into being an offensive coordinator, even at the high school level.
Sure.
What does Friday night look like? What does Saturday, Sunday look like? The preparation that goes into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yes, I text you because you don't go home and you go to bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go home and you just contemplate every life choice you've ever made. Right? And not just on that Friday, but what did I do wrong on Thursday? What did I do wrong on Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday? What did I do wrong? So I always go home and I'll rewatch the game. So I'm up till 2, 3 in the morning on Saturdays all the time because I rewatch the game. My wife will come out Saturday morning and be like, "What time did you go to bed?" I was like, 3 hours ago. What are you doing? Rewatching the game. So it's just film study, and you're just constantly contemplating. I think this happens to all coaches. Did we do everything that we could do to make sure we're in a position to be successful? And what did I miss? Because there's always something that you missed. Always something that you miss. Even in games, you score 60, and you'll sit, and there'll be 3, 4 play calls in your mind. You're like, that was a horrible decision on my part. And so it's just that constant film study and that constant just reflection. I think that's the biggest part. I'm constantly reflecting on what we have to do better. And I heard you guys, and I don't know if I'm still a segue here, but when I was pulling up, you're talking about tempo, and that's something I've been contemplating the last couple of weeks. We are, and I talked about it again last night with the coaches on the sideline. We love tempo. We love to go fast. I think it's a great equalizer in offense, and I know a lot of guys, maybe don't like it, especially at a certain age bracket of fan that don't like it. But you have to reflect upon it now. What do we do? Are we being selfish from the standpoint that we want to score points, and does that put us at a disadvantage as a whole program? And so that goes into everything I just talked about. I mean, you got to really look at every single aspect to make sure you're doing what's best for everyone.
So that's exactly where I wanted to go next is ask you a little bit about the tempo, because you guys, you get up and down the field quickly. And does the tempo, Carter Bucad, I guess let me go here with this. He's averaging about 170 yards rushing per game, couple touchdowns. He had a great season so far. Is part of the reason those lanes are so open is you guys often, it looks like the tendency is after you have a big play of first down, you quickly get on the ball and can hand it off to Carter again, catch the defense off guards. So is that kind of the big reason why he's having good season is the tempo, or if you lined up a little bit more power football and ran at him, you feel like you're going to have the same results? And I guess with that, is that a conversation that you're thinking, do I need to slow the game down now and create less possessions for the opposing team? And will you be as effective, I guess, as an offense?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think in regards to Carter, I don't think it matters what you do. I think Carter will get you what you need. I really believe that. Not to gas him up, but Boo Boo's, he's that dude for us, and I think he'll get it done. But why tempo is so great is it's really what it does for the offensive line and what it does for the quarterback. So what it does for the offensive line and the quarterback is it forces defenses to A, show their hand early, and B, simplify what you're doing. Like last night, we saw 3 different fronts. That's it. So they'd be in a 50, a 3-3 type look, or a 4-2 look. Because they don't have time. If you notice early in the game, they're trying to sub packages and do different things, and then we're catching them. They got to call timeouts, and it causes a simplification on the defense. So it allows your quarterback to excel. It allows your offensive line to be more comfortable. So I think that's really who it impacts. And the hard thing for us is we're built that way. So if you're going to go and you're going to modify your tempo, that means you got to apply window dressing. So now you're adding to your scheme, and you're causing the kids to have to do more things because your great advantage you're taking away from yourself. But at the same time, back to what I said, you got to reflect a little bit, and you can vary tempo and do things like. That's what we've kind of done the last couple of weeks. Like my true style is all gas all the time, to where we're snapping the ball every 7 seconds and we're running. No slow down, freeze, look at us, change the play, none of that type of stuff. But I feel like, and Madison, especially when Mac went down and then Boo Boo took over, it was kind of forced our hand a little bit to, when we have a 7.5 minute drive, I think that one. It forced our hand to slow down a little bit so guys can get more comfortable, and then you have to shorten the game. But, it's definitely something that is, kicking around in my brain right now, because something has to change for us. It can't just be about us scoring points. It's got to be about us getting W's. So
you alluded to, again, the film study and trying to simplify things for the line, simplify things for the QB. Something that we've had some fun with on the air is talking about different positions and giving shout-outs to some alumni here of some good. As a coordinator, what's the most important spot? Like, what keeps you up as far as we need to make sure this group's right, we need to make sure this guy's right on the field?
Yeah, I mean, it's O-line all day. O-line
You sound just like Tyler.
Can you repeat that? I don't think our listeners heard that.
That is O-line all day. I mean, that's it. It doesn't matter. You could have, I don't care, you could have 5-star guys everywhere playing receiver, playing quarterback. But, I mean, if your O-line's not solid, the whole game, that's the game is won and lost on the offensive line, defensive line. I mean, look at the Jets. They bring in Aaron Rodgers, right? But what are the Jets going to be known for? That defensive line. I mean, they're paying guys and they're drafting guys and they're building everything from the line. And then, if you watch Hard Knocks, Ty and I, Bear and I talk about this, Salah goes off on them in Hard Knocks. He's like, we brought in 2 Hall of Famers, but if you guys don't do your job up front, who gives a crap what we got? I mean, you got to have dudes up front. You got to be dialed in.
Well, you've got a pretty good offensive line, it looks like, here at Wasatch. Maybe take a minute to just shout out some of those guys that have been performing well.
Yeah.
And some of those top dogs for you.
Yeah, I mean, we got some young guys stepping up, too. I mean, Robbie's only a sophomore. Drew Baxter's only a sophomore. Heath Budd, Connor Cox, those guys are only juniors. And, Connor, I feel bad for Connor, breaks his hand. He was coming on where he was really pushing to probably be our best guy up front. He was doing a great job. And then, shout out Austin McNaughton. Hopefully, his knee's okay. We'll see what happens there. And Coopy have shown, Cooper Thacker, have shown great leadership for us. And they're trying to bring guys together and do the right thing. But I feel like that group, still hasn't gelled. I don't think they're anywhere near the potential of what they could be. And we're going to keep pushing them for that. And when it clicks with those guys up front consistently, then I think we got a good group. It's just a matter of getting it to click consistently and stop showing flashes and be consistent. I mean, that's it. Be technicians. That's what I'm on them about all the time.
It's probably the story of our team right now.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Coach?
100%.
Just the consistency.
Yeah.
We see plenty of good.
Sure.
Just got to put it together for a complete game.
Yeah, lots of flashes. But flashing ain't going to get you 1 and 3. Mm-hmm. Being consistent will get you 4 and 0.
You're listening to Coach Nate Knight, Wasatch Football Offensive Coordinator. Coach, you spent a lot of time and I know we got to get you out of here pretty quick, so we'll wrap this up on a couple questions here, but you spent a lot of time around the game, and you've seen the next level. You've coached some guys that are now in the NFL. Talk a little bit about some players on this team that maybe you see having an opportunity at the next level. Who are some guys that may have that talent to make a jump and play some college ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's some of the young guys too, but, first JoJo pops off in my mind. I think Mac has the ability, and he knows this. Mac's biggest thing is going to be just consistency, weight room, those types of things for him. But, there's some young guys, too, coming up that I think have a real potential. Crew Baxter's a guy I look at with his frame. Addie Holmes, I'm excited to see what Addie looks like once he gets his hand healed completely with his length and ability. But I definitely think we got guys. Carter, I know he loves baseball and all that, but the season Carter's putting together, Carter could get some looks and opportunity to play at the next level. I mean, I think he has that type of, skill set. So a guy who I love, I would love to see college coaches take a flyer on him, and I'm not sure what level, is Abe Wheeler. Like, his nose for the football, his work ethic, his understanding of the game is second to none. I mean, he's highly intelligent. I think he's a kid who could play at the next level. And there's more guys. I mean, there'll be some guys at home right now angry. Like, Coach Knight doesn't think I can play college football. And that's not true. I think, we got quite a few guys who could. So...
Well, it's been a lot of fun to watch your offense out there on the field here today. I know we're running out of time. So, Coach, let's just finish with, a little bit of college football talk here. All right,
I can't wait.
Yeah, let's talk a little college football. I guess I've got this thought, and I'm just curious in your mind. Is the SEC overinflated? All right, that's where I'm going to go. I'm just going to go right there. Yeah, so I was just going to go right to it. I've got this theory that, the SEC, they don't ever play anybody. They just play each other, so they have these rankings they put by themselves. And so, sure, you got number 1 versus number 3, but then they haven't really played anyone outside the SEC. I guess, how far away is the Big Ten from the SEC, and is the SEC just a little overrated?
Yeah, I definitely think the SEC is overrated, for sure. I'm an SEC hater through and through. Like, there's no doubt about it. We talked about a little group text Barry and I are on. We talked about it. I think they're, 8-1 in the SEC, or in the college football playoffs. But I also feel like it's always set up for them to have success. Like, I feel like they never meet each other in the semifinals, right? They always get it's so convenient. You'll see the pre-rankings before it all comes out, and they'll be like, oh, they'll end up 1-4, and then the Big Ten teams or whatever be 2-3, and that's how it's going to go down. It never works out like that. They're always 1-3, or maybe they end up 2-4. Or excuse me, they'd be playing each other then. But however it works out, you get what I'm saying. It always seems to work in their favor. But Big Ten football. So I'm a Wisconsin guy. All right. Coach Fickle, you're excited.
You like Coach Fickle? You like that hire?
I'm fine. Phil Longo is OC. Yeah. Like Tyler's talking about Sam Houston State scares BYU. If this had been a couple of years ago where Longo was still at Sam Houston, BYU would be in real trouble. Especially if Tyler's going to wear his khakis. You got to drop the khakis.
So Gary Anderson probably not high on your list there, right? So Gary Anderson for me when I was at Utah State, that was like the hero. Like the Dark Knight Rises type situation there. They take them from just the trash heap.
Hold on a second. Jim Harbaugh owns the khakis, and that's like one of the best programs in the Big Ten. You got to embrace it a little bit.
Captain Khaki. That's going to be the best thing about college football right now is I don't have to see him on the sideline for a couple of games.
Do you like what's going on with college realignment? These teams that the Big Ten is pulling in, USC, Oregon, UCLA, you don't?
Yeah, no, I hate it. I think it's going to ruin, I think college football and college sports in general are dying, and it makes me sad because, the old rivalries, I know we're still going to get some rivalries, but I just think that whole format is going by the wayside. And I think what you're going to have is, it's not that far down. And I'm a big wrestling guy too, obviously that's like my second sport, if you will. And so I think it's going to impact that too, but I think what's going to happen is we're just going to end up with NCAA football, NCAA sports are just going to become the minor leagues for professional sports. And we're going to lose that amateur aspect. And, the NIL is really pushed that to the brink of where it's going to fall apart. I thought paying kids, giving them some type of stipend, some value off of their name, absolutely that should happen. But it's the Wild Wild West. It's out of control. I mean, what I see, Arch Manning is making more money than Joe Burrow.
Yeah. I mean, when Caleb Williams says, I may not leave, that's not a bluff. Like, he legit is making more money right now than rookie quarterbacks are. So, yeah, you bet.
He's taking a pottery class, right?
Oh, yeah, dancing, right, whatever he's got there.
Who do you like to win the Big Ten this year?
Well, my heart says Wisconsin. My brain says Ohio State, so it's tough to go against Ohio State. It is.
Just one thing to be clear, it was said on this show that the SEC doesn't play anybody outside of the SEC, so Utah fans, you're nobodies, LSU, Florida State, you guys are nobodies. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Trying to stir some stuff up.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, we better get you out of here. We sure appreciate you taking the time. This has been Coach Nate Knight, Wasatch High School's offensive coordinator that you've been listening to. Coach, we appreciate you taking the time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back after the break to wrap up Crossing the T's.
On Wisconsin.